Hello and welcome to the Patriot Astrologer Forecast. Here we're going to follow the Sun, the 5 visible planets, and sometimes the 3 outer planets as they move through the actual constellations in the sky. I'll try to make some connections with mythology, alchemy, personal development, and maybe sometimes some current events, and then you can decide for yourself whether or not those lights up there have any influence on our lives down here. This is going to be the forecast for November 2023. My name's Jerry D, and I'm going to be your guide. During the month of November, as you look to the south after sunset, you're going to see Sagittarius setting as it moves a little closer to the western horizon over the course of the month. And then on the opposite side of the sky, you'll see Taurus and Orion beginning to rise. Now I know Orion isn't a zodiacal constellation, but I like to point it out because it's really easy to find, and the 3 stars that make up Orion's belt point directly at the brightest star in Taurus, Aldebaran. And of course, if you can find Taurus, right now you're going to see Jupiter shining brightly off to the right, sitting under the constellation of Aries. So across the night sky during the month of November, you should be able to see Sagittarius out in the west at the beginning of the month, as you can see in this picture I took on Sunday, November 7th, 2 years ago, 2021. That was at 7:15 p.m. This was the first day back on normal time that year, meaning we set our clocks back an hour the night before. And if I compare this photo to my astrological software dialing up that same date at the same time, you can see it's a perfect match, with Sagittarius setting, the Moon and Venus just about to go under the horizon, and then Capricorn and Aquarius trailing across the south sky. And you'll notice in this picture how bright the 3 planets are compared to the surrounding stars. Even Saturn, which is supposedly the furthest away planet we can see with our naked eyes, is significantly brighter than any of the stars around it. And since this picture was taken 2 years ago, back then you could see that Saturn was still in Capricorn. When you find it now, you'll see that it's in Aquarius, where it's been since February this year. And this gives you a little bit of an idea about how slowly Saturn makes its way around the wheel of time. By the end of the month, you won't be able to see Sagittarius anymore because it's catching up to the Sun over that western horizon. You may have noticed also that the zodiacal constellations in the evening are starting to rise a little bit higher in the sky. And this is because the ecliptic reached its lowest point in the night sky in September, just as the Sun's path intersected the astronomical equinox. From here forward, the evening constellations will be getting a little bit higher and higher as we move into winter, while the early morning constellations will be getting lower and lower. And if you do get up early in the morning, at least a couple hours before the sun rises, you'll see Orion very high in the south sky. This is the time of year that the morning ecliptic is at its highest point. And if you follow Orion's belt up and to the right, you'll see the bright red star Aldebaran, and from that, you should be able to make out the rest of the constellation of Taurus. And if you look a little bit to the left, almost directly overhead, you should see Castor and Pollux, the 2 main stars in the constellation of Gemini. If you have a good view to the east, you should be able to see Leo rising at the beginning of the month, and by the end of November, you should be able to see Virgo rising. So this month we've got Sagittarius setting and Virgo rising. This means the Sun has to be moving through the region between Virgo and Sagittarius. And that region contains Libra, Scorpio, and if you recognize the 13th colony, Ophiuchus. So according to my calculations, the Sun will enter the constellation of Libra on November 5th, which is the day we set our clocks back to normal time here in Buffalo, New York. It'll move pretty quickly through this small constellation, entering Scorpio around 10 p.m. on November 23rd. And if you look at the transitions here, you can see that there's a short intermediary zone between Virgo and Libra, and a similar zone between Libra and Scorpio. And to me, these represent undifferentiated transitional periods when the Sun is kind of between characters. Kind of like when we finish a project or reach a goal and we don't already have another project or goal to start working on. There are other transitions between constellations that actually overlap. And this is kind of like when we've not even finished a task and we're already being called to do the next thing. So if you were born between November 5th and November 23rd, your true sidereal sun sign is Libra, not Scorpio, as mainstream tropical astrology will tell you.
Fake news.
True sidereal Scorpio happens between November 24th and December 19th, unless you'd like to honor the 13th constellation, Ophiuchus, which the Sun occupies between December 7th and December 19th. But I'll save that for next month. November, this month, is the month of Libra, which is the realm of the balance, a symbol commonly used for law and order and justice. And you may have noticed that the balance is the only inanimate object in the zodiac. In fact, Libra may have originally been a part of the constellation of Scorpio. After all, the two main stars in Libra are literally named the Northern Claw and the Southern Claw. And if that's true, then perhaps Ophiuchus was originally part of the 12-station zodiac. I also find it interesting that here in the United States, we hold our elections right as the sun enters the constellation of Libra. I think the founding fathers may have known a little something about sidereal astrology. As the sun moves into Libra, it's a good time to pay attention to where your life is balanced or imbalanced. It's also a good time to pay attention to things happening in our justice system, and in particular, maybe the new Speaker of the House. Later in the month, as the sun moves into Scorpio on the 24th, our consciousness will once again be pulled into the underworld, the taboo. And this is when we have to honestly take a look at some of the less savory aspects of life. I kind of like to look at the 7 deadly sins and see if I notice any of them in my own behavior. And I like to balance these with the 7 cardinal virtues. And personally, I'd like to honor the fact that Ophiuchus, the serpent bearer, the symbol of the legendary physician Asclepius, is sitting right there above the scorpion's tail. I see this as an opportunity to receive healing medicine after the dangerous journey into the underworld as we pass over the stinger, which to me may represent some form of jab. So maybe in Ophiuchus, we could get a short period of rest as the sun approaches the Golden Gate, the galactic center, next month. So Mercury starts out moving through Libra with Mars and the Sun in early November, and it'll move into Scorpio on November 11th. Mercury is the trickster and the patron of communications. I might even say Mercury is the god of all media. Mercury crossed paths with the god of war, Mars, on October 29th. I'd say there's been a lot of chatter about war in the media leading up to this. Mercury moved into Libra, the realm of justice, on October 30th, along with Mars. You'll notice that the new Speaker of the House was voted in on October 25th, and the media doesn't seem to really like him very much. On November 11th, Mercury will move into Scorpio, the realm of the dark underworld, and then Ophiuchus on November 20th. It'll finally hit Sagittarius in early December, and you might be able to catch a glimpse of it in the west after sunset between Thanksgiving and when it goes retrograde again in mid-December. If the media down here at all reflects Mercury up there, I would expect a lot of activity, new information, and maybe even a little bit of panic from the mainstream legacy media through November. And if that happens, I'll be very thankful. Venus is still the morning star, and at the beginning of November, if you get up around 4 a.m., you'll see it rising right alongside that kite-shaped head of the constellation Virgo. On the morning of November 5th, our clocks will show 3 a.m. when Venus rises, as we here in Buffalo will have set those clocks back an hour, once again aligning our mechanical chronometers with the actual movement cycles of the celestial lights in the sky, and in particular, the sun. Venus in Virgo is sacred feminine times sacred feminine, or maybe love to the power of love.
Love times love. Divided by
and I know there's always a lot of chatter and information out there about Venus being evil and satanic and a symbol of Lucifer, but let's be honest, it's a light in the sky, and it's named after the Roman goddess of love, and that's it. And people can use the power of love,
that's the power of love,
and affection and attraction in positive ways or in negative ways. The symbol itself isn't evil. It's the person who uses the symbol who decides what it'll be used for. Venus will be moving through the large constellation of Virgo until the middle of December. Virgo is a symbol of the goddess of the harvest, maybe Demeter in the Greek pantheon. But to me, a regular old Catholic, it seems like an obvious symbol of the Virgin Mary. And it's the largest constellation in the zodiac. To me, this is a symbol of being born again, and I don't think that necessarily means you have to be formally baptized into a credentialed church. It just means that something happens and something awakens within you. You might describe this as a light. It doesn't seem like a stretch to me to say that we humans can choose to open ourselves to something that might be described as a higher level of consciousness. And we might say that something like a Christ consciousness awakens, and it feels almost like a new person is being born. And the birth of this new person doesn't require physical sexual intercourse. It's the virgin birth. and the mother is the sacred feminine archetype. So with all the chaos that's perhaps about to be unleashed into this world, maybe now is a good time for us to focus on the non-aggression principle and the virgin birth and the sacred feminine archetype. Mars moved into Libra on October 30th, and it'll cross paths with the Sun at 1 o'clock a.m. on November 18th. It should be visible again in the morning before sunrise sometime around Christmas. For now, the god of war will continue to move invisibly through Libra, the realm of law and justice, for almost the entire month of November, crossing into Scorpio on November 26th. This gets me thinking about the Nuremberg trials, war crimes, MK Ultra, biological warfare through toxins and injections, and it makes me wonder if we might see some military tribunals here in the not-so-distant future. Jupiter is still in Aries and Donald Trump is still the president. Jupiter will be retrograde all month, moving back toward the beginning of the realm of new beginnings, along with the invisible symbol of revolutionary change.
You promised a move, but I preferred
Uranus. Jupiter will be retrograde until the end of the year, and Uranus will resume its forward movement at the end of January. Jupiter will then cross paths with Uranus in April as the commander-in-chief gets ready to be the star witness in a televised trial for all the world to see. Interestingly, as we move into May of 2024, Jupiter won't be visible in the sky anymore. It'll reappear then over the eastern horizon before sunrise in June in front of the constellation of Taurus. Mars, Uranus, and Jupiter will all be moving through Taurus in July and August of 2024, and to me this seems symbolic of a great revolutionary battle led by a charismatic leader. So let's see what happens as things unfold. For now, if you want to see Jupiter, you could look to the east after sunset, or get up very early and then look to the west. It'll be the brightest light in the sky. So Saturn is still loitering in Aquarius, and the reflection here on planet Earth is the deep state criminal syndicate trapped in the realm of dissemination of information until February of 2025, when it can be cast out into the void, symbolized by Pisces, to be dissolved and purified. The Joe Biden stand-in continues to mumble nonsense through his malfunctioning mask.
Years ago, I asked the Secretary of State when he and I were working in the Senate to write something for me, and he said, he wrote a line that I think is appropriate. He said, it's not, we lead, not just, well, I won't go into it, I'll wait later.
And damning information continues to be made public about the Biden crime family's money laundering business. Over the course of the next year, I think we might actually see all three movies playing at once. And I think people's minds might be a little bit blown. Aquarius is a symbol of revelation, and it certainly feels like we're witnessing a revelation of biblical proportions here on planet Earth. Not only is Saturn passing through Aquarius as it does every 30 years or so, but the precession of the equinoxes is drawing the Sun closer to the edge of Pisces as we get ready to enter the age of Aquarius. The vernal equinox position of the Sun has been progressing 1 degree every 72 years backward through the constellation of Pisces for right about 2,200 years according to my calculations. And that puts it right before the birth of Christ. Ever wonder why the fish is such a prominent Christian symbol? We've probably still got about another 500 years to go before the Sun technically enters the constellation of Aquarius at the vernal equinox. But as you can see here, in 2024, the Sun is already right under that home plate-shaped asterism that is the western extent of Pisces. And I'd say there's at least a 3 to 4 degree gap on either side of the border between Pisces and Aquarius. So we are right on the precipice. I think we're living through the beginning of one of the greatest times in the history of the human race. And I do think the best is yet to come. So that's it for this Sidereal astrology forecast. I hope you found this information uplifting and entertaining. If you like this video and you want to see more, please give me a rumble, hit like and subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube, and don't forget to share with your friends. As always, I hope you're able to get outside this month, look up to the sky, and verify for yourself where those stars actually are. My name's Jerry D, and I'll see you next month.